We are here in Capilla del Monte, Argentina, and today we're heading out early to a place called Los Terrones. Legend has it that it might be the entrance, a portal to an underground subterranean base. There are many cases of UFOs that have appeared there as well as luminous beings. And I'll tell you once we get there about other cases involving beings as well, even a case of a possible chupacabra. So, come with me after the intro. We're in the car right now, heading to Los Terrones, me, Itayu, and Margarete. We're going on this trip to a really magical place where there are unidentified flying object sightings and other things. And the one driving us here is Lucas Veron. And the guide who's going to help us there is Claudio, right? Claudio? With knowledge about unidentified flying object cases here in the Capilla Belmonte region and other places as well. So that's it. Keep following us. I'm going to show you now the Serra del Pasarijo, which is where there was also a mark, and it's right here to my right. We just arrived at the park here, Los Terrones, so you can see these formations behind me. In a bit, we're going to take a 2-hour walk around, learning about the stories of this place as well. There are oil houses, luminous beings, a possible underground base. We were talking about it in the car. But first, we're going to go up that path. Come on, turn here. There's a path over there that's short, about 300 meters, and you can take some pictures. So while we don't head out on the longer path, we're going to take a quick trip over there and get a feel for this place here, which is really cool. Come with me. Margaret, we found a nice spot here, haven't we? There's a crystal up there. Take a look. And here there's an amazing view. Look. So, this is the Los Terrones rock formation. It's a park here. There's a restaurant, and there are guided trails with some guides here who will tell you stories about the park. We're going to take a trip soon, a 2-hour walk. From what we've heard, it's a harder trail, not too hard, but where we came now, which is this spot where we can see the rocks, it's easy to access. Anyone can come here, take pictures, and sit on the benches. There are benches over there too. So people can sit down, take a rest if they want, but we can't spend too much time here because we're going to have this 2-hour walk. And then we'll learn some stories about this place later. I also have some photos that I've already managed to get of flying objects, like a mothership, at night, even releasing a smaller object. But I'll tell you about it in a bit. I'll tell you this story. Music. You make Bumirastro. I'm here with Matias Isa. He's our guide here in Los Terrones. And I'm going to ask him if he's ever seen an unidentified flying object or anything like that around here. Have you ever seen an unidentified flying object in this region?
Yes, right here in this park many years ago. And actually, my stepfather is a ufologist, so he brought me here by the short path to the quartz crystal. And well, they started to chant a mantra in the Erding language, which is the language of the brothers or the Erks zone. Actually, I didn't really like this subject, so I left the mantra, sat on a wooden bench there, and started looking at the sky, and suddenly several lights appeared, right? At first, I thought they were satellites, but then I realized they were changing colors, and especially one of them was blue, and this blue one came down, right? They were all moving side to side, and one came down. This happened many years ago, so it wasn't a Starlink, which is why it caught my attention. That happened to me. I saw about 20 of them, and then everything changed.
Other people come here to look at the sky at night to see if they can spot the lights. And then, yes,
They do exactly that. They come here specifically to Los Terrones, or they go to Cerro Uritorco, or to many other places. What happens is that the people who didn't catch my attention much were the skeptical ones who didn't believe in any of this. They have these encounters or see these lights and start to believe. That's it. That's also what attracts people to the region. And it's great. I love it. For example, my mother didn't believe in these things until she met my stepfather and started accompanying him. Exactly on one of these guided tours, which are done in Terrones or in another region in Puertas del Cielo. And she saw a light, also pink in color, and then it changed to a yellow color. It didn't come down, it just changed. I mean, it came from one direction and then went to another. And by the speed with which it made that change, it wasn't a plane and there was no sound of a turbine, nothing.
and here in this nearby area, there's the Passerino Mountain and also the Ritorco.
Ritorco is actually behind all these hills and Pajarillo is here. Pajarillo was where the unidentified flying object landed and left a mark. Well, it's the first case of ufology in the region, but these stories about lights, UFOs, and the beings from Urks date back to the 1960s and 70s, that is, years before the Pajarillo mark. For me, the Pajarillo mark was the big bang, that brought all these topics to the table, right? So we could talk about it. Otherwise, before, this kind of conversation was very closed off, right? This kind of information.
Thank you, Matias. Thank God. The trip is very, very beautiful. I'm enchanted with everything, with everything. So, just so you know, in this area, there are a lot of unidentified flying object cases. He himself has already seen several of different colors, and there was a blue one that came down. It descended the mountain, and he didn't believe in this, right? And he said they weren't Starlink because it's different. All right, so keep following us. So, Margaret, are you enjoying it? Man, it's tiring. Both, both. It's good that there are several stairways, made of stone so you can get through. But there are some places that are hard to get by, right? Ah,
Yes. And
so guys, this trip to Los Terrones was really cool. And we had to make a quick stop. We just made a quick stop now. The trip is already over, right? Because during the trip, I couldn't stop anywhere to tell you the stories since there was another group there with us, right? So we really had to keep walking, right? To get to our starting point. So we walked all that way, almost 2 hours walking there in Los Terrones. It's a spectacular view. So I stopped here for a moment to tell you these stories, right? There was that story that Matias told us, right? About a sighting he had of lights, right? So usually these cases in Los Terrones are lights that appear, or sometimes beings, right? There are people who have already claimed to have seen luminous beings there, and also beings that look like chupacabras. One of the first cases that happened there in Los Terrones was in the 1980s. Starting in 1983, it was mentioned here by Horacio Casco. He has a book about it, right? Horacio Casco wrote the book Extraterrestrial Experiences with Dr. Angel Acoglanes, who is a figure from this region who believed in intraterrestrials, Herkis, all those things, right? He has already passed away. But Horacio Casco, he tells about the experiences he had here. And what's interesting is that he talks about a mothership that supposedly appeared in the 1980s, starting in 1983, over there in Los Terrones, right? In fact, here on page 40, he shows some photographs of this object, right? So I'm going to put the mothership on the screen for you. There in Los Terrones, he said it appeared around 6 o'clock in the morning, right? It was dark, the sun hadn't come up yet. And next, I'll show the picture of the mothership that releases a small object on the side, right? So there are two more pictures of the bigger object, right? That big luminous sphere releasing a smaller object on the side there. Pretty interesting, right? So there are photos. Here are the cases, right? Talking about those sightings on the way back, right? When we were already heading back to the hotel and everything. On one of those trips we took around here, we found out that Dr. Dante French had also seen it, right? Dr. Dante French, we attended a lecture with him at the theater, and I'll even show some pictures here of him at the theater, right? Giving the lecture, he also talked about these luminous beings and apparitions that he himself witnessed. In his own book, which is this one, Elia del Pajarillo, right? Sign of Contact, right? Which talks about the main case here in Capija del Monte, right? Which is that mark that appeared on this mountain. He tells here on page 31 a case that also happened to him and to a friend of his named Aldo. So he writes it like this. Aldo was waiting for us at the entrance of Los Terrones to join us and start the climb with my car. Halfway there, he seemed to see a glow during the night, right? So he tells a story. By the way, this story he's telling supposedly happened, from what we learned at the lecture and everything, in July of 1985. And in this book, on page 31, which I was showing you, he says that there were two lights that appeared. After that flash, he stopped the car, and then two lights appeared at the place known as Los Terrones. And these UFOs kept zigzagging, making zigzag movements in the valley, right? He then, French Tooth, and his friend Aldo, they saw the lights moving from one side to the other and over Los Terrones, which are those rock formations there during the night. They kept watching everything. They didn't really know what that was, right? So this happened in July of 1985, and it's described here in detail in Dante French's book, starting right here on page 31. There are other recorded cases of lights, even tourists who went to that place, right? Los Terrones, and while taking pictures there, they also witnessed some kind of unusual phenomenon. The other story about this place is exactly that it would be a portal, right? An entrance to the underground world, right? So they talk about intraterrestrials, right? Even Triguerinho has been there in the past, right? Who is well known for this Urcus thing, right? But it's a mystique that's wrapped around that place. There are some caves, some grottos, right? And there have also been some cases of sightings of beings in these grottos, right? Well, the case of luminous beings, Dante French himself during his lecture showed a photograph there. I'm going to show you this photo so you can see it, right? So according to him, it would be one of these luminous creatures that has already been photographed here in the region. But besides the luminous beings that appear in Los Terrones, there are some stories told here, right? About strange creatures dressed in black, right? That appeared in September of 1989. About this 1989 incident, it became known as the case of the Duritorco vampire, right? In the region, people talked about that. That was in 89. And Mario Gustavo Guevara, who is also the author of a book called Echoes and Fantastic Stories of Capilla del Monte, which is Facts and Fantastic Stories of Capilla del Monte, published in 2004. He says that in September 1989 there was a huge fire and even the army firefighters were called in. And during this search they saw a strange individual, tall, dressed in black. And then the chief of the firefighters said, "Look, that guy looks suspicious. Maybe he's the arsonist. Maybe he's the one who started the fire." And he picked out 3 strong, brave men to go with that person and see what was going on. And these people, these 3 firefighters, went up to about 50 meters from this strange being, which they didn't know what it was. They thought it was kind of strange, but they went there to do what the fire chief had ordered. And when they got there, he said it looked like it had a black cape. And this being, it ran very fast, according to the testimony. So they tried to catch up with this creature. In the firefighters' words, quote, "Those movements weren't normal, the ones that this unknown being was making." And it ran up to a kind of cliff and jumped off. This cliff was about 80 meters high, and the individual then disappeared. They later saw down below in the stream at a certain spot this creature stuck and then walking away, but they don't know what it was. And they saw that it disappeared on the banks near a cave that exists in the region. When they arrived at the farm, it was already night and the fire had already been contained. They talked to a farmer there, someone who worked at the farm, and she said that 3 years earlier, a strange being had also appeared, dressed in black, but this one had yellowish eyes and some fangs. And that during that time, about 3 years earlier, some dead cattle had appeared on the farm. And without blood. According to the statement here, they appeared without blood. And he even shot at this creature with a shotgun because he got scared. And there was a certain moment when he saw this creature clinging onto one of his calves. Here they say it was a calf or maybe a kid goat, a sheep, something like that. So then he grabbed his shotgun, and at a certain moment he managed to shoot at this creature. And he supposedly hit it the second time he fired. Then the creature fell on its back. Then he went there, tied it up. It was kind of heavy. He dragged it out and buried it near a place that was there close to a cave. He also threw some rocks on top of it because of the smell and everything else. And then what did he notice? That a few days later, other animals started dying again. He went back to the 3rd place and found that grave empty. So there was nothing there anymore. He had buried that animal, but there was nothing left. It was open. It had been dug up. The stones had been disturbed there. And then this legend remained, right? Of that strange creature. Chupacabra? Could it have been a creature worse than a chupacabra? Nobody knows. But, both things exist in this region. Both these strange creatures that in the past mutilated and drained the blood of animals, and also luminous beings that from time to time appear in the region. So those were the stories I wanted to share with you. Today we should go to Cerro Uritorco, which is right next door, to do a night watch, right? So later we'll also publish this video talking about Cerro Uritorco. And also during the night watch, I plan to take some pictures. So keep following us because there's a lot of valuable information from this region of Argentina, from Capilla del Monte. That's it. I hope you enjoyed these cases, right? and the tour we took here in Los Terrones, right? And next year, in 2027, we'll probably be doing an expedition here. And you could be one of those people who will enjoy all of this together with me. So if you like the video, click the like button, leave your comments, and see you in the next video, podcast, or live with Edison Boaventura.